Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aaron's Reading Room. Today, I have live with me author Sera Taíno, special edition author, as well as author of many short stories and everything. So, thank you for joining me today. How have you been?
Right. I mean, it's been busy. It's been
Yeah,
busy, but it's been good too.
good,
Yeah.
good. Well, I always like to start my interviews by asking my guests to show off some covers that they're in love with. Did you bring any covers to share with us today?
Listen, you opened up a box
Oh,
because
good, good.
I'm one of those people. I love covers and
Mhm.
I will buy a book on the basis of a cover for no other reason than it's a pretty cover. And so I was pulling up my Kindle and I'm like, I have at least 20 covers and oh my goodness. So I tried to limit it. I was watching,
Mhm.
I've been following your YouTube channel for, a
Oh,
few
that's nice.
months and I noticed that you had one of my favorite books. Da, 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 da.
Oh,
And
yes.
I love this cover. I love the, red and blue. And
Mhm.
it's just a novella, but it's just such a beautiful cover. The book is fantastic. I mean, I love the discussion because a lot of the things that your guest spoke about was exactly my impression also when I read the book. But
Uh-huh.
this cover is beautiful. And then this particular one has like I know it's a small thing, but this part is very smooth. This is a matte cover and this is really
Mhm.
smooth. And
Oh,
so it
okay.
opens and you get all of the praise for the novel and this wonderful red strip. And I love it. I don't buy a lot of physical copies because I don't
Mhm.
have the space for it. So when I buy a book, it's because I love it. And I love this book. So
Yeah, it was
special,
real good.
special one. I have ooh, we could be here all day for this, just for this. Let me do this one because I like this. This was an art that I got, and I absolutely am in love with it. It's West Side Love Story by Priscilla Oliveras,
Oh, yes.
and
She always has the best covers.
she does, and it's so colorful, and
Mhm.
I'm very tactile. I love how heavy the book is, like how heavy the pages are. The cover. This is
Yeah.
not a matte cover. This is really smooth, but I love the detail. Like if you can see, she has like this gold along the pants, and then it matches really well. This is
Uh-huh.
mariachi outfit, the beautiful flower, and it's just a gorgeous cover. And then of course it calls to West Side Story,
Mhm.
with the way with the font of the cover. I just love this cover so much. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
and I love like I said, if you hold the book, it's a heavy book. It's sturdy. I love it. And then there's of course Alexis Daria's Take the Lead. And I like this
Mhm.
cover because that for me in my head, that's Chris Helmsworth. I mean, nobody can tell me
Yes, yeah.
differently.
I don't think anyone would
And
argue with you.
so pretty. And then this beautiful red, and she's just gorgeous and really sensuous. And then of course, this is actually a reissue. She won the Rita Award for this book.
Oh,
The book
awesome.
is it's a reissue. It's just such a gorgeous cover, and I really like that. And I don't know how many covers can I show you.
As many as you like. You go.
Yeah, okay. Pull up a chair. No, I'm joking. I'll do a few more and then
Already
stop.
sitting down, yeah.
This one's nice. This is an indie author that I like a lot. Her name is Nicole Bailey, and this one is Veil of
Oh,
Gods and Kings, and
ooh.
is a beautiful
Mhm.
Greek retelling of the Apollo myth, Apollo and Hyacinth. It's a male retelling. It's gorgeous, gorgeous book. But I love it because of the detail of the cover. And these are very popular right now. There's another book. Um, it's a Shakespeare retelling that
Okay.
also has this kind of cover, and I just love it with
Mhm.
the flowers and the gold. So that one's and the black, bold, very
Yeah.
bold. And then let me see. Let me do a little bit of the in-house stuff. I love the Harlequin Desire covers a lot.
Mhm.
And I pulled this
Yeah.
one up a lot. This one caught my eye when I saw it. This one's Laquette. It's a very intimate
Mhm.
takeover. And I love this cover a lot because most of the Harlequin covers, even no matter what the line is, they're more like full face, the very close up on the couple. But
Uh-huh.
this one is like pulled back. This is a full body cover. And then you have like this blue skyline, and then you have her dress, which picks up all that color. And it's
Uh-huh.
just a striking cover. I really am in
Oh,
love with
yeah.
this cover, and I sit it up on my bookshelf sometimes. I could just look at it because I love the
Mhm.
the blue, and it's beautiful, beautiful, this cover. Um, this one because it's set in.
Uh-oh. Oh, we seem to have lost our guest here. We'll give it just a moment to come back. Hello, Alicia. Thanks for joining us. And if you noticed, Sera pointed out one of our book club books. So that was very cool. Hello, Reading Room. Thanks for being here. Super excited for this as well. Well, if none of you have checked out Sera Taíno's A Delicious Dilemma, you definitely should. Oh, here she is. She's back.
I don't know what happened. I'm gonna blame it on those
It's all right. Glad to have you back.
There's a sign from the universe that says one more book and that's it. So this one because I live in Florida, and so this what happens in Miami. I love this entire series because it's all set in South Florida, and so I recognize it. But I love it because of, again, there's this beautiful, sort of, sky, and there's this background, and it's a little industrial because it's supposed to represent like the museum district, so it's those low buildings. And then you've got these two gorgeous couple on the cover. So I mean, yeah, I could go on for days when it comes to covers because I'm a visual person. So I love a well-made cover.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes being on the social medias with all the cover reveals and everything. It's like, oh, well, I need that one because it's beautiful.
Yeah. In fact, I've imposed the rule on myself now. No more of this impulsive shopping, because I have a problem. I have a book problem, and I'll pick up books. That's a pretty book. I don't even know what the book is about. I don't care. And I just buy it, and then I have 3 million books on my TBR. So.
Well, there's a saying in the book world, there's being a reader and a book collector are two very different hobbies.
So, and I have them both. I have both defects.
Well, Alicia, our friend, says she just bought your book. So very excited there.
Thank you.
Well, and you mentioned you're in Florida. How are you doing with the recent weather and everything there?
Oh, wow. So we lucked out because I'm in the Orlando area. So no matter what direction the hurricane's coming, unless it comes in, comes in through like the Atlantic and comes in right through Melbourne, our hurricanes lose steam over land. And so by the time they get to us, it's usually Category 1 or Category 2, which is still a scary storm. Yeah. Like it's more than you would experience on a given day. But we didn't have anything then, like compared to what Fort Myers is completely decimated. My heart goes out to them. So I experienced some inconvenience, but there's no way I can complain compared to that.
All right. Well, no way. I'm glad you and yours are all right.
We are. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about some books. So you released a number of short stories and novellas for, just to name a few, A Perfect Storm, The Broken Horse, At Summer's End, and I'm sure there's many, many more. What can you tell us about your short stories and novellas?
Well, because, I work full time and I'm also a writer. And before I published, I wrote a lot of short stories, and I don't want to say that I'm good at them. I mean, who knows if I'm good at them or not? Your readers would probably be better able to tell you that, but I enjoy writing them because they're contained. I can do it within a certain amount of time. I can envision, I could start and end a story, and it doesn't sort of draw itself out. And so I enjoy them a lot. I enjoy the challenge of packing as much as I can into a short space. And I've read a lot of short stories as well as in novellas. I just enjoy the form a lot. And so I've written a lot. And then as I was conceiving of being a romance writer, the hope of writing romances, one of the things that you learn is that, having some short pieces and having things already written are useful if an anthology opportunity shows up, or if you want to give I have a lot of free stories on my website because, it's something that you can offer your readers. And I tend to overwrite with my books. And so there's always like a lot of deleted scenes. And there's always something that you can offer that's just a little bit more than what you're writing. And so I enjoy them a lot. I enjoy the form.
Yeah, well, we enjoy them as well. So thank you for all the work you put into them.
Thank you.
Well, you've recently wrote A Fashionable Deception, which is part of the 4 novellas in the Happily Ever After collective. And this is for the month of October. So please tell us all about it.
Okay, so that was a really interesting opportunity that came up. I love the idea of the collective. It's sort of like, a co-op. It really is a cooperative, right? Of authors that kind of get together. It is it's a Patreon based, so sort of subscription service.
Okay.
And depending on the tier that you subscribe to, you can get 1, 2, 3, or all 4 novellas. And in addition, you get like extras. You get like, for example, today the author posts went up. So posts that talk about, like in the case of my story, I talk a little bit about the inspiration, and there's a playlist, and some of my fellow, authors offer like recipes or other things that are, so it's an addition to the novella. And so for each month, there's a focus trope. So this month is fake relationships. And so I wrote a fashionable deception, which is a fake relationship trope between, I think today's description was like, stern daddy, grumpy stern daddy versus a chaos, sunshine chaos demon, which is a pretty good description of the two characters. And so Emilio, or Milo, del Torre, he is the heir to a large fashion house, and he needs a date for his parents' 30th anniversary extravaganza. He's been avoiding going home for a long time, and so he really has to go to this. And he sees, because he owns a fashion house, he sees a model, and he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask this guy to just go with me. I'm going to pay him bunches of money for no other reason, but he seems like a cool guy, and he's extremely handsome. And so he offers Alex Morales, a large sum of money to keep him company. And so it starts from there, and, shenanigans ensue and fake feelings.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. We love fake relationships here, as Tati says. So they are so much fun. And funny enough, our November Books Club theme for the Categorically Romance podcast is fake relationships. So
cool.
Yeah,
and I love them. I eat them up. I love it. I love the tension. I love I'm here just for business. We're just faking it. Oh, but wait a second. What is that thing I'm feeling? Is that a feeling?
Yes. And then the moment when the dam breaks too. Oh,
it's great. It's great. It's tension.
Well, how did you like writing the trope?
So much fun.
Reading. Yeah.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I enjoy it because it's like, I tell a lot of people like, that the first reader is the writer. So I'm writing what I like. And it was so much fun to take these characters. They're actually based on a Thai drama that I had binged over the summer.
Oh, nice.
And I was my summer, I was really stressed and busy this summer, and I needed just something, and my brain latched onto the series, and I would wait every week for this series episodes to drop. I loved it. I was just glomming it, and I would think about it because I'm also like a fangirl, so I would go into fandom spaces and chat about it and talk about it and speculate on it. And so Kin Porsche, the series, it's called, and it's a Thai drama. And the two main characters, Kin is this heir to a mafia family, and Porsche is this bartender who's just hustling, trying to survive life. But they have this quality, like Kin is very stern and very, I will shoot you at the drop of a hat. And Porsche is like, I'm just trying to get through things. And he ends up his family ends up coercing Porsche into becoming his bodyguard, which Porsche is not happy about. And so there's that sort of enemies to lovers trope, which I didn't play on because I didn't have the space for it, but it was such a great pylon of tropes. And so I wanted to look at those two characters. And I said, okay, what if I take a really, really serious guy who just has to do this thing? He really resents having to run the family business, and he gets caught up with this, wonderful, beautiful, sunshiny, happy maniac, and what happens when they get together. So it was so much fun to write. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, you were able to fit the grumpy sunshine trope in there as well, which is it's just another great one.
And there's a little bit of the like socioeconomic thing too going on. Like he's very, very wealthy, and Alex works 4 jobs and is trying to, he's trying to be a model, and he's trying to pursue his own dreams while he's trying to take care of people at home. So there's that sort of conflict there too. And I didn't want to play it too much because I didn't have the space for it, but I wanted to make sure that it was prevalent because it does influence their worldview and the way they interact with other people.
Of course. Yeah. Well, your Harlequin Special Edition debut, A Delicious Dilemma, released in August of 2021. How did it feel to become a Harlequin author?
Like I won the lottery. I mean, It was amazing. Like, and the thing is that because it was the mentorship, I had a slightly different experience. Like, because now I've written 2 books under a regular contract, and there is a
Mhm.
difference because now it's like, okay, you take the training wheels off. You have this amount of time, and you have this amount of support, and it's a transition from being like a student to like trying to
Uh-huh.
be a writer. And so for a year, I had this entire process sort of supported, and I had this wonderful editor who supported me throughout the entire process. And I learned everything that it takes to put a book together. Like, it's not a joke. And this massive team that's put in place to make sure that each title, makes it on the shelf. And so it was I mean, I didn't just get a book published. I had a mini lesson in publishing. It was an incredible experience. And I wish there were more. I know that Harlequin and Mills and Boon both try to do this every
Mhm.
year. And there are other opportunities by other publishers out there. I wish there were more, because I think it's
Yeah.
when you get a book contract, especially the first time, you have no idea unless you've been,
Mhm.
doing your research and you have writer friends, but you never actually know what it means actually until you do it. And so having that opportunity was golden. And I don't think I can overplay it, like overstate how important it was to
Yeah,
me.
that's great. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about the mentorship program? How did you stumble into that?
So, I was, as usual, I was querying this book, which would eventually become A Delicious Dilemma.
Mhm.
And I saw the opportunity and I read the requirements and I said, my book would really fit here. But, like anything else, you send things out into the universe and then you just sort of let things happen, because,
Mhm.
publishing has a really like glacial timeline. And so you just you prepare yourself to wait. And so I sent it in and I had no expectations. And then I remember it was in I saved I still have the voicemail. I got a voicemail from Harlequin. I didn't recognize the number. Typical person.
Right,
Oh, I
right.
know the number. You're going to voice.
Yeah.
I was like, I even missed the call. Like, oh, I don't recognize the number, whatever. And then I got a second call, and I happened to pick it up, and I was at lunch at school. There, we have like exactly 38 seconds for lunch when you
Yeah.
teach, and so I was like taking this call, and they tell me like, did you get our message? and and they tell me that I got the mentorship, and I was babbling. I have no idea what I said to this to the person I was speaking to. I
Uh-huh.
have no idea, because I whited out completely. I couldn't believe it, because I had already set it out of my, like, it's a survival strategy. You
Right.
send things out in query and you just kind of let it sit in the ether. Like, you don't think about it, otherwise you drive yourself crazy. Like, why haven't they
Mhm.
written me? It's been 48 minutes. Why haven't they written me back? So when I got the call, I was dying. I couldn't believe it. And then I went back and listened to the voicemail, and I
Mhm.
was like, I'm saving this. I still have it on my phone. I've changed phones twice.
And
Still
excellent.
have it. I listen to it every now and then. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was me.
No one blames you.
No, so when I saw it, okay, so this is what they guarantee. They, of
Mhm.
course, they buy a book. They buy the book from you. You compete against other manuscripts. So there were like, I think it's like something like 160 other manuscripts
Wow.
that went up against mine. I mean, there were some great, talented people, I know, because like writers are just amazing and talented people in general. And so and then mine came up, and so I had a year where I would be working with an editor, and we had monthly, calls where every single process was explained to me, and I could. And the nice thing about the mentorship is like a two-way street. So
Okay. Yeah.
as much initiative as you have and as much interest as you have in learning is how much you also get back. And so we created this really great dialogue and this great rapport, and I learned so much. And I could ask my editor anything, and he was great. He could tell, and if he couldn't find the answer, if he didn't have the answer, he would find it.
Mhm.
So it was just this opportunity. And I know, like I said, applications come out in the fall. There should be something coming out now, and then they announce the winners at the beginning of the following year. So it's a really good opportunity if people just take a chance on it and do it. It's
Yeah,
worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I have my information right, you worked with the senior editor for Desire, I think,
Mhm.
is the
I
line.
did. Yeah.
So you didn't have how did that work that your book ended up in special edition? Was there like kind of just it just got filtered to that line, or were you targeting it specifically?
No, I wasn't. I actually thought that it would end up in Desire only because there was a wealthy,
Mhm.
well, if anyone's read the book, Philip is a wealthy developer, and because it takes place in the city, and because it was kind of high heat.
Yeah.
At least the original, manuscript, as we get, kind of reworked it, I had to lose 25,000 words because the original manuscript was massive, and I
Wow.
had to bring it down to 60,000 words,
Uh-huh.
65,000 words, and so it, so I initially thought it might end up in Desire, but then I was told, it would go in the special edition. And I remember thinking to myself, well, it's not a cowboy book, it's not a small town book, and they're like,
Mhm.
no. They're like, no, but it is a family book. It is a family. It is a book that is firmly rooted in community, and
Yeah.
the community is as much of a main character as the characters themselves. And I was like, you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right, because there's Val and there's Philip, but then there's the entire sort of background and the entire situation and the setting, and that's what made the book a special edition placement. So, and they were right. They knew more than me. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it definitely fit in special edition,
it did.
and but it, like you said, it very well could have been in Desire as
Mm,
well,
yeah,
definitely. And you you got away with the word count a little. They gave you some grace on that, didn't
they
you? Because
did.
this one's a little thicker than your average special
And
editions.
and Rafi's book, the book two, is also kind of hefty
Oh,
too. Like I had a hard time.
good.
I'm an overwriter. I had a really hard time, and it was funny because the third book, which is Nadi's book, the younger sister,
Mhm.
I had initially trouble to bring her up to word count, and it was
Oh,
the
okay.
well, it was also, I don't think it wasn't so much the story. I think it was the time of life that I was writing. I just couldn't like find the words, and
Mhm.
but yes, with that one, Val, they let me get away with some stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
we're glad that they did because it came out perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, where did the inspiration for A Delicious Dilemma come from?
Well, Delicious Dilemma is probably the most biographical of the three novels. Like they're okay. So,
Mhm.
in the sense that the setting is actually, I modeled it after the Jersey City of my youth, and so I
Okay.
grew up in the '80s. So I'm giving you a moment into my age, but I grew up I was a teenager in the '80s and the '90s, and that was a moment in which Jersey City, which is right next to Hoboken, so it's right across from Manhattan. That
Okay.
area had once been a warehouse district, and there was a lot of commerce going through. And then those warehouses kind of shut down as things changed, global trade changed, and
Mhm.
so it became like sort of a industrial depressed type of town. But real estate developers recognized the opportunity because it was right on the Hudson River. It's right across from Manhattan, and so they started to build the PATH trains and the connections, and so they started to develop, and they became these wonderful, they're beautiful, these condominiums and these
Mhm.
complexes. And there's Exchange Place, which is like a sort of mini Wall Street on the other side
Okay.
of the river. And the problem is, though, is that the families that lived there, they all had to go move uptown because they couldn't afford to live there anymore. It was just classic gentrification. And
Mhm.
so I was there right at that moment where things started to take off. I remember my father's, he had a brownstone, and he would tell me, he's like, oh, I got it for this, and now it's worth this. And I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that thing there, that decorative thing, because that's what happened to the properties at that time. So when I was writing A Delicious Dilemma, I was trying to capture that moment. And so
Okay.
Val is in that moment where all of a sudden this community, what's been operating in happy anonymity all these decades, all of a sudden attracts the attention of these wealthy corporations, and so she's trying to fight to keep its in the integrity of her community. So
Yeah.
that's where it came from.
Yeah. I love that moment when they're protesting outside of the office building where Philip and his family work, and he goes down to try and settle things, and of course who's there but the lovely woman from the from the club.
Who summarily booted him out.
Yeah.
You gotta go, bud. And it's really neat because like my grandfather, when he emigrated, well, it's not really, it's called the va-et-vient, right? It's the back and forth between Puerto Rico and the mainland of the United States. And so when
Mhm.
my grandfather and my family in the 60s moved from Puerto Rico to Jersey City, he had an apartment building where every one of his children and their family had a floor or had an apartment. And then he had a restaurant that he, ran out of a basement. And so a lot of that was that whole dynamic of everyone living in that building was totally a life experience. That was my grandfather, and we all took turns working in that restaurant. Everybody,
Yeah.
even the grandkids did. And little by little, of course, as time passes, everybody kind of drifts off, and so a little bit
Mhm.
there's that in the later novels too. But in that moment, in Delicious Dilemma, that's the moment that I was capturing, or I was
Yeah.
trying to capture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. That turned out great.
Thank you.
Well, as the title suggests, the book contains a lot of good food references. Can we assume that many of these are your favorite dishes?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things about, especially Delicious Dilemma, because it's a family restaurant, so the food that's featured there is very homely food. Like it's not like
Mhm.
fusion or sort of cuisine.
Yeah.
Cuisine is the sort of thing that you would make at home. Maybe the more complicated dishes. So you might not make empanadas at home because they take a lot of time to make, but the
Mhm.
restaurant will offer them. Maybe you won't make roasted pork every day because that is an endeavor, a
Mhm.
6-hour endeavor minimum,
Yeah.
but they would offer it at the restaurant. So it's considered comfort food because it's the type of food you would serve like at holidays, or, the rice and the beans and some other things that you would serve on the daily. But you would go to the restaurant to eat it because, it's an alternative. And there are a lot of those type of restaurants. Even here, I live near Kissimmee, and Kissimmee also has a really large Latin and Puerto Rican population.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of those mom and pop, restaurants that serve what you would consider like homely food. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of cuisine that I was thinking about for Val, so that when she goes to the French restaurant with Philip, she's like, "Oh my God, this is like a theme
Yeah.
park." What is it? She knows it because she's a chef, but like it's
Uh-huh.
not something that she, um, you know, encounters on daily because she's dealing more with this kind of homely cuisine. So
Yeah. That would
definitely favorite stuff. Definitely favorite foods.
When I was reading through the book and looking up all the names for these dishes and everything, I very quickly looked up the closest Puerto Rican restaurant to me, and unfortunately is 50 miles away.
No,
So
it's
yeah,
too far.
yeah. So
Too far away.
next time I'm in the big city, I'll make sure
There
to
you go.
stop in.
Definitely, definitely.
But can you tell us this for someone that's going to attempt to make something on their own if they can't get to a Puerto Rican restaurant? What's the beginner dish that you would suggest that they try and make?
Well, the easiest thing would be the rice. Like you could do like the white rice and just beans. Beans are really easy to make.
Mhm.
If you want to try, it's they say it has different names, right? So pollo guisado, fricassé, or stewed chicken. So any of the
Okay.
stews would be easier to make. I do have an electronic recipe book. I offered it as a how do we call a pre-order bonus,
Oh,
and
okay.
so I
Yeah.
have that available. So I'll stick it in the next newsletter, and anybody
Oh,
who's
yeah.
interested can pick it up. It has all of the major recipes that Val talks about, and they're not. Some of them are labor intensive, but the
Mhm.
rice, the beans, the stews, those because those have their equivalents in every cuisine, and so a person could easily manage those, and
Oh,
it'll come out good.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, look out for the newsletter, people. You can find Sarah's email or not email website
Email.
down below where you can where you can sign up for the newsletter.
Definitely. And then and I'll send it out next couple of installments so people have that opportunity.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Well, all right, time to play a little bit of a game here, and I'll call it "What Does Val Cook?" So here's the situation. It's the end of a busy day, and she makes a meal for her close family.
Well, Val is nothing if not strategic. So because she's cooking and she's been cooking all day and she's
Mhm.
tired, and because it's her family and she's not going to put up with their picky nonsense, she's going to make extra of whatever, feature meal that she has on hand. And that's what she's going to offer to her family. And she could get away with this because,
Mhm.
Rafi's too busy teaching and Nadi's too busy at the hospital. And so they will welcome not having to prepare a meal. In fact, it's what they
Yeah.
do on the regular. They eat regularly together. And this was something when I grew up, this is what we used to do. We
Mhm.
also we would just close up the restaurant, we'd clean up the kitchen, and in the dining area, we would have dinner. And so
Oh,
it happened a lot. like frequently throughout the week.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely Val would be strategic like that.
Totally. She's tired. She's tired.
Yeah, right. Doesn't need to make more dishes after shutting down the restaurant. All right. Well, she's meeting Philip's extended family for the very first time. What does she make?
Now Val pulls out the golden spoon, right? Because she's going to impress them. She's going to probably make a fusion dish. I actually mentioned it in book 2. It's a tamarind shrimp mofongo. So mofongo is like a crushed, twice cooked green plantains, and so you cook it a certain way, and there's different stuffings that people put, and then she's going to use shrimp. And then she's going to have a tamarind base sauce that she will then put over that. And she would offer that probably with because for us, fish is very, I don't want to say it's a delicacy because we have it in Puerto Rico. If you live along the sea, you have it a lot. But she would have a fish-based dish because she would want to impress them with something a little more delicate.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. All right. If there was a neighborhood block party, what would Val make?
She would probably dig a hole in the backyard and she'd make a roasted pig. It would be this massive roasted pig because that is what you typically do. And so she would have that thing cooking from the morning and you would smell it in the neighborhood. And then she would have a huge, in Puerto Rico, and also I use it in my home, but it's a smaller version. You have these really, really large aluminum pots. And those are the ones that you make the huge vats of rice and also, different types of stews. And so she would have one of these massive things and it would all be cooked outside because, the restaurant also, those brownstones also have like a backyard. And she would make everything there and then she would bring it out, to offer it during the block party. So that's what she would do. Just traditional sort of I want to say picnic food. It's not really picnic food, but it is the type of food that you would eat if you're making a large amount for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, sounds amazing again.
Yeah, all right. And I'm hungry.
Yeah, I know. You're making me very hungry. It's dinner time. I'm sorry. Can you talk about this?
What else can we talk about?
All right. So it's the morning after a long night of drinking, maybe too much drinking. What's Val going to make in the morning?
Mandatory, when you've had too much to drink, you have to make a sancocho. And a sancocho is a stew with multiple different types of meat and it has a lot of vegetables, including like huge chunks of like corn on the cob. And it has we have different roots. Like there's potatoes and sweet potatoes, but we have different types of root. There's like chautilla, ñame, and they all have like a different flavor. They're all starchy roots, but they all have like a different color and flavor. And so you make this huge thing. And basically you're trying to restore try to purge your body of all the poison you took, all the Bacardi that you drank the night before. And so sancocho is a typical next day. And you usually have it late. It takes a while to make. But you usually have it around mid-morning because, nobody's crawling out of bed before 11.
Right. Yes.
And so that's what she would probably make. Really, it would be Enrique who would be making it because Val would be also unconscious. Yeah. And so it would be her dad. And then giving them the side eye because he was forced to make this for them. So.
I love
it. Thinking back to the days when he used to do the same thing. So he's not telling them that,
That sounded like a familiar scenario to you.
No.
Is it? No.
Why would I know? How would I know?
Well, thank you for playing the What Would Val Cook game with us. It was very, very fun.
It's food. You can't beat it. Yeah.
Well, what's one of your favorite romance tropes to read, and do you enjoy writing it just as much?
What's really wild is that, during COVID, I remember I craved comfy reads. So I wanted everything soft and I wanted everything really cozy. I read a lot of fan fiction because it was very low emotional investment. I was already invested in the characters. And so I just would find the popular ones in the whatever fandom I was reading, and I would read those and they were great. But now that, the COVID has passed and everything, I'm starting to crave high conflict, intense, epic sort of, novel. So the first thing that I'm thinking of is a good enemies to lovers, one of those, I will beat you to within, an inch of your life but I feel this thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do about it. And it all gets conflated, all of these, really big feelings. And so I'm
Mhm.
feeling that right now. I'm feeling an epic. I'm also craving. I like a good. Like I love. I'm gonna just give an example. I love Nalini Singh's. Um, her Archangel series, because everything is in such a grand scale.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been really craving that a lot lately, those kind of really big romances. So, and it's okay, I do enjoy rom-coms a lot. I read them and listen to them mostly, because it's easier for me.
Mhm.
But this is where I'm at right now in terms of my reading taste. So enemies to lovers.
Mhm.
I do like a good angsty friends to lovers, like an
Yeah.
unexpected sort of like, wait a second, or even a second chance romance where you've blown it the first time and there's
Mhm.
like resentment and you have to work through that resentment to get to, a happier place. And I
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
that a lot too. So I think so, things with a little bit of conflict in them. I'm kind of enjoying those. And I do love to write them. I love
Mhm.
writing agonizing scenes where I just put down the pages. Why do I hate myself so much? Why do I do this? You know, I do enjoy writing it
Yeah,
because it's
stress yourself
engaging.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why? Because I
Yeah.
have enough stress. I have enough stress. So I do enjoy writing that right now.
Well, what advice would you give to any aspiring authors?
That's funny because it changes, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning, I would be like, "Yeah, you've got to write every day. You've got to do
Yeah.
this and that," and it's true to an extent. I
Mhm.
mean, writer writes. That's what they do. But as I've settled into more of a routine. My advice would change a little bit. One of the big things is that write a lot, obviously, but write as you can. Not everybody can write every day. And so,
Mhm.
realistically speaking, if writing has to become a stress, like it's going to automatically be a stress anyway. Once you get a contract and you're paid to do
Yeah,
something,
right.
like automatically it's like, oh, pressure. But you're not writing for fun anymore. Not You are writing for fun, but not
Mhm.
just for that. And so there is that already. But but writing, writing every day, but also, not making yourself sick. Like, as I see that, it almost happened to me, you make yourself sick,
Oh,
just
yeah.
writing so much. And
Yeah.
that's not really good.
Mhm.
Read a lot, read more than you write, because whatever it is that feeds the well. So I'm a really visual person. I love pictures. I love art. And I love, one thing I want to learn how to do are like video edits and that sort of thing, because I love visual art. And so whatever it is that feeds you, you should be in taking that, a lot of that in, because that's where your creativity comes from. It has to
Oh.
spark from somewhere. It's not going to come from a vacuum. So I would
Mhm.
definitely
Yeah.
recommend, because there's so much, especially as a traditional author, but even as an indie author, there's a lot of things that are outside of your control, but you can't control your story. So make it the best possible story. Write it with as much like passion. Like I talk about my id. So what is my id asking for? And so my id wants high conflict right now. And so that's what I'm going to give it. And then maybe later on your id wants something else. And so write to that,
Yeah.
and stick with it. Finish it.
Mhm.
Even if you run out of steam a little bit, stick to it, because then you have something that's finished. And that's the discipline part. Like there's the emotional part. I'm going to write what I want to write. But then there's the discipline part, which is I'm going to finish it to the end, even if it's not great. End
Yeah,
it. Get
my
to the end of
my guest
it.
last week, Kim
Yeah.
Finley, who writes for Heartwarming,
Mhm.
she was saying she has a problem of getting too many ideas and starting too many
Yeah, me too. Me
starting too
too.
many
Me too.
projects. Yeah.
And so one thing, the best thing to do with that is just sit down and let it out, but don't
Mhm.
write it, like outline it. Like I have books, I have notebooks full of, and some of them it's like in the moment they seem like great. And then when I go back to look for an idea, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that's, yeah, I kind of, the muse left me on this one. So I'll
Yeah.
let that go. And so, but at least you get it out of your head, right? And it
Mhm.
frees up your brain for whatever else it is that it has to do. So that is good. Yeah. A lot of us have that problem. I think we have too many ideas.
Yeah.
And then what do? We burn ourselves out.
Yeah.
Burn out. We write it. So, and then I think that's, yeah, just read it and try to have fun. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, because it is fun.
Always try and have fun. Yeah.
Try to.
Well, question out of nowhere. How was it writing the second and third book in comparison to writing that first one?
So the first one really came, again, going back to like that id place, like it really came from I want to write this and I
Mhm.
need to write this. And I remember making the conscious decision of, I have the situation, I have the setup, I have the characters, what's their problem? And I was like, boom, there it is right there. It's a gentrification issue. Make him the son of the guy who's about to take away everything that she loves. Make
Mhm.
it that. And so it was, and I don't want to say it's easy, because it's never easy, but because it came from like there was no expectation. It came from a very like primitive place. That
Yeah.
book, Rafi, a little bit less because I already knew that I had to come up with Rafi. The thing with Rafi that made it such an adventure was that the characters were there. They were already there. They were
Yeah.
already on the page in
Mhm.
80 in A Delicious Dilemma, and they were already screaming like they were so present that it was I could take them and it was able to write that. And so it was a little, I don't want to say it's a little bit easier, but it was a different experience.
Mhm.
Also because I had a lot of time to work on A Delicious Dilemma because I had written a draft, and then I had a year to really rework it and make it fit into the, requirements for special edition. Rafi, I had to write him with special edition in mind. And so it was a little bit of a different drafting process. Nadi was my hardest one. Nadi was because she suffered from something that my editor friend called little sister syndrome or kid sister syndrome,
Oh.
which is like you're the youngest one. It's really hard for me to sex you up. I
Oh.
mean, there's no other way to say it. Like
Yeah.
I had such a hard time with that. I was like, I don't want you to fall in love. I want you to go to school and I want you to finish school and I want you to take care of your business. You have no business having these kind of romantic problems. Leave that to your older brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
I wanted Nada to go shopping and I wanted her to hang out with Olivia and I wanted her to have a good time. So giving her a problem was really hard for me. I was struggled so much with her. And that's why I was having a hard time getting word count. And then finally, I tweaked an aspect of her personality that doesn't come, it
Mhm.
comes up a little bit on the page in the previous books, but it's so subtle. And I was like, there it is. There she is, but it took me, I was already through like a third draft of
Oh,
Nadi's book
wow.
before I found her and I found the story, and it became very nostalgic and very different type of story, but it worked. But she was the hardest one. And it's funny because you would think, oh, she wrote 2 books before, she should know what she's doing now. No, it
Yeah.
was like starting all over. What are words? I don't know.
Well, I can't wait. You've got me on the edge of my seat. I'm so excited
Well,
for the follow-ups.
I'm happy to. I'm happy because I had fun writing. In the end, it was hard and stressful, all that you want, but I loved writing them. I love the characters. You do it's I think it was Reese Ryan who put up this really funny TikTok. She's like, I make fake people, and I'm the leader of these fake people. And that's me. These are my fake people.
Yeah.
I love them.
Oh, we get so attached, don't we?
You do, and
Yeah.
it's hard to let them go. So
Well, we know from reading your blog that, well, with NaNoWriMo coming up, you have written about this before in your
mhm.
vlog, but can you go ahead and share with us the 5 things that Nano has taught you?
Wow, NaNoWriMo is great. I have been doing NaNoWriMo for over 10, since almost the beginning. Since almost at the beginning
Mhm.
that they started. I want to say 10 years, but I don't want to lie. I think they've been around longer, but almost from the beginning. And because I love a writing challenge because I'm such I can be a bit of a, like I'm a plotter. And
Uh-huh.
so NaNoWriMo gives you the excuse to take off the wheels and just go. And
Yeah.
so it's one of the things I love about a good writing challenge because it forces me to I can't think about that being so
Mhm.
precise about everything because I just have to get word count down. But one of the five things that NaNoWriMo taught me, number one was that writing is worth prioritizing. And this is a big problem, especially when you have a full-time job and you have a family, and sometimes
Yeah.
you don't always give yourself permission. Like, okay, I'm going to go lock myself in the room and suffer over the characters. That's fun. I
Yeah.
can't have like who does that? We do that. So just saying I can do this. This is worth doing, and it's you're allowed to set out a period of time and say this is an uninterrupted time for me to create. And that NaNoWriMo taught me that because I would never reach word count if I didn't block off that time.
Mhm.
And it's a good habit as a writer to get into
Yeah. Yeah.
to learn to really say this is my writing time. Stop. Nobody else can touch it. The second thing is the devil is in the planning. So one of the things that makes NaNoWriMo successful for me is if I pre-plan what I'm going to write, what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my targets are. Doesn't matter if the targets change. Like that's perfectly normal.
Mhm.
Anyone who's ever plotted a novel will tell you that your novel will go in directions that you don't expect, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
good. That's part of the creative process. But if you don't really plan for NaNoWriMo, then it's hard to be successful. So having a
Mhm.
story, having even the roughest outline or the idea of where you're going with it, having a plan for when you run into roadblocks, even if it's an alternative project, just say, okay, I'm going to take a break from this and then go back to that. Like having that plan in place helped me to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
successful. because otherwise, you get sleepy, you get discouraged, all kinds of things happen, and then you stop, you lose momentum. Writers write. That was another thing that I put on the blog, which is no matter what, especially during NaNoWriMo, write, sit down and write. Even if you're writing nonsense, jump to a scene ahead that you're really inspired by, and then go back and fix the problem. Like sometimes I'll run into a snarl and I say, well, how am I going to get them from point A to point B? And I remember reading, I don't know who gave me this amazing advice I read that says, just have a line, make it in yellow, make it in whatever color it is, and then write, just get there. And then so go from that scene, jump over the transition that's giving you so much trouble, and get to the scene and just write that scene. And then when you go back during the editing process, you can fix that bridge, whatever that transition is. But a lot of people get stuck at that transition and they won't go further. So jump over it. Just go past it. Okay, get there. Something happens here, 1,200 words later, and then go and write whatever's after it, right? Because that's probably where your brain wants to be anyway.
Yeah.
So just having that in mind, which goes into the next one, which is just keep writing. So not only do writers write, but they keep going. They keep going despite obstacles. So find a different way, find some sort of inspiration. When you plan for NaNoWriMo, because you're in that mindset, it's a mindset you can't sustain for a long period of time unless you're like Katie Roberts, who's amazing and writes these phenomenal books overnight. Who does that? She does that.
Yeah.
She's
Don't compare
brilliant.
yourself to Katie Roberts. You'll just drive yourself insane.
You can't do this. Don't do it. But in general, though, sometimes what happens is, you'll slow down. And so you have to find a way around that. And then finally, even when you win, you lose, you win. Because even if you don't reach the 50,000 or 60,000 words that you've targeted, you have 20,000 words you didn't have before. You have 30,000 words you didn't have before. And that's a win. And so you take your wins where you can. And so that's, basically the content of the blog. And I've been doing Nano a long time. Delicious Dilemma was a Nano baby. So it was one of my big projects. I have a few other ones. Rafi was also a Nano baby afterwards.
Oh, good.
So this month I have a book that a novella that I'm editing for an anthology, and that's going to be my Nano project. So
awesome.
I love it. I and there's something communal about NaNoWriMo too. You have other authors who are doing it, and so you can sort of connect with them, and it's nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of stressful, but it's a lot of fun too.
It is fun. It's a good energy to feed off of, and you need energy because it's hard to find it sometimes.
Well, on top of being an author, you are a teacher as well. So please tell us how you balance these two parts of your life, as well as your family on top of that.
I don't. I'm failing on every side. No, I'm joking. I actually keep a calendar, and it's a big calendar, and I write. I block off everything. Here's the thing. Here's the thing with calendars and planners. They're aspirations. They're not reality. What does that mean? It's a hope. This is my hope. This maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. So this is the type of thing that I do, for example. It's really because I'm a very analytical mind. This is the kind of thing that I do. And I block off time. And I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this at this time. And I even put in my work time, my exercise time, because I try, to go to the gym. When am I making dinner? And it seems almost like Picayune-ish, and maybe I won't look back at it, but at least while I was writing it already, I fixed a framework in my mind. So I'm already looking forward, like, oh, I know that between, 7 and 8, 8 o'clock, I know I'm going to write now, or between 4 and 5 in the morning, which is my preferred time, I'm going to write now, and that's what I'm going to do. And it's already in your head. So the expectation is set up. Now, does it happen all the time? No, but it's at least gives me something, like, it's not just me pulling out of the chaos and the universe. My plan. It's something that's written down, and I do it. Sunday night is usually the night that I plan for the week, and I try to do quarterly plans. So I'm really bad with those. So I have to keep going back, or I forget whatever I planned for the quarter. I don't know. I'm in November. What am I doing now? So, but if I do it weekly and I'm looking, then I have a better vision of where I'm going. And so that's how I do it. Otherwise, and between projects, I have like these grading blitzes. So, it's like, okay, I got to catch up now. I finished this 2-week project. Now I've done 2 weeks of this. Now I've got to focus on this. And so for a few days I do that, and then I go back. So there's a lot of that kind of juggling too. I make it happen.
Yeah. What grade do you teach?
High schoolers.
Okay.
Ninth graders.
Do you tell them that you write books?
I do. I don't tell them what I'm writing because they shouldn't be, that the books aren't really for them. If I were writing YA, yes. If I was writing a YA book, I would be all out there. And I promote when my people like authors write YA, I promote them all. Like, you've got to read Nisha Sharma. This book is great. Or you've got to read this. You've got to read that.
Yeah.
And I definitely put it under their noses. But my stuff, no, because it's adult romance, and I feel like that's when they're older, they can look for it.
Find it then.
But I do tell them that I'm a published writer, and so that they take me seriously when I try to teach them how to write essays. I'm like, dude, please just do this. Just trust me on this.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. So do this, please.
Yeah.
So
it'll make sense one day.
One day it'll make sense. Just trust me on this one. So. And it helps, to be able to come at them from that perspective. And I always know what they're reading, which is really great. So I have people, I have ninth graders who are reading Colleen Hoover, who is a wonderful writer, but I always think that they're a little bit, young for that. But, it's because I'm a little bit of I'm conservative when I recommend books because I don't want to get in trouble with parents. So I always try to find line.
Yeah.
But I see them reading books. See them reading adult romances. And I'm like, I know that.
We can't talk about it, but
we can't talk about it, but I know it.
Yeah.
And that's fun too, to be able to interact with them on that level.
Yeah. Well, what are you working on now that you can share with us?
Well, I'm working on, I had an anthology. It's that I'm participating in. I started off with my anthologies with the New Romance Cafe, which is a wonderful Facebook group that I've been with them for years and years. We have critique groups and we do a lot of, writing challenges together, and we've all just kind of supported each other, and lots of writers have come out of that group. And when I can, I try to contribute, to an anthology. And there was this rock star anthology. And because I'm on my bodyguard romance thing, left over from my Kim Porsche, binge, I'm like, I'm going to write a bodyguard rock star romance. And because I had written something, I don't want to say it was similar, but I wrote Rosario's short story. It's a free Harlequin online read. It's After Hours at Aguardiente. And she also meets a rock star. And so it's sort of like a thing that's in my head right now. And so I already drafted it, so I have to just revise it. So I'm going to be working on editing that for NaNoWriMo next month. And then I'm also revising now, currently, a book that I'm querying with a co-writer, R.R. Merrill, and it's a really neat. It's set in the world of like customized cars, right? So there's this. It's like From Rust to Riches. I think it's on Netflix. Like this really great, Netflix show, and they show how these cars are refurbished. Except we added an extra something to it, and it's just we're working on that and querying that. So that's one of the projects that we have in front of us, because my Harlequin contracts are completed, and I'm thinking of how I'm going to follow that up. So. That's what I'm working on right now.
Very exciting stuff. Looking forward to all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, lastly, where can everyone follow you online?
I'm Sera Taíno everywhere. So like back in the day when I was first started, I grabbed every handle on every social media site and I was like Sera Taíno, so that I don't have to think about, what I'm wrecking. So everywhere that you go, I spend a lot of time between Instagram and Twitter. Twitter because it's easy, and Instagram because it's visual. Sometimes I'm on Facebook. I usually just send whatever I've worked on other social media there, but you can reach me anywhere. Also, my email is serataino@gmail.com. My website is serataino.com. So anywhere that you want to holler at me, I'll find you. You'll find me. So.
All right. Not on TikTok yet.
I have a TikTok, but I am not, I need to start putting my face on it. I don't know. You know what? I go on TikTok. What do I go on TikTok? I watch cat videos, and and whatever my obsession is at the moment. So if I'm like obsessing over, like I don't know, WandaVision for a while, I was obsessing over that, or I was obsessing over, whatever I'm consuming at the moment. That's usually and then I'll reblog like, funny videos, but I probably need to sort my life out and figure that out because it seems like the thing to do. So
I know I'm still trying to catch up there too. So
yeah. And it's funny because I have like 100 and something followers and I'm like, why? I do nothing here.
Where'd they come from?
I have cat videos.
Well, that's it there. I mean, everyone loves a cat video.
Everybody likes a cat video. Cats are great. Cats are amazing.
They are. Yeah.
They are not to be underestimated.
Well, Sera, thank you so much for joining me today on my YouTube channel. I was very excited when we first booked this, I think way back in January.
Yes,
so
I'm
glad
excited
to finally have you here.
I feel like I'm like meeting like a rock star because like you featured my book last year when it came out. It was one of the books that you were reading, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, he's reading my book. How cool is that? So this
Oh,
is
well, yeah.
amazing. I'm so excited. I was so
Well,
excited when
thank
you
you.
were reading.
Thank you. It was very exciting to meet you as well. So it goes both ways. So
Yeah, that's
appreciate
cool.
it. All right, viewers. Well, I will be, this will do it for this live show, but coming up later this week on Wednesday on my friend Nicole's channel, who picked this book, we are talking about the short story Given to the Ghoul by Desiree M. Nicoli. And then later in the month, the Aaron's Reading Room book discussion is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. We're reading that for the Halloween theme and as well to celebrate the new show that's coming out. So look out for that one.
Very
So,
good.
yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you if you're watching the replay. And I will see you in the next video.